Okay, so let me ask you something before we get into this. Yesterday, June 21st, 2026, JD Vance boarded a government aircraft. He flew to Bürgenstock, Switzerland, a luxury mountain resort overlooking Lake Lucerne. He sat down at a table with Iranian officials, Qatari mediators, Pakistani mediators. This was the first face-to-face meeting under the terms of the MOU, the first real test of whether this peace deal actually has legs. And within hours, every major news outlet was running the exact same headline. Trump undermined his own VP. Trump sabotaged the talks. Trump is out of control. CNN said it. The BBC said it. Al Jazeera said it. And here's the thing. They're not wrong that something extraordinary happened, but they are completely, fundamentally wrong about what it means. Because while every analyst in the world is asking, did Trump sabotage his own peace process? Nobody, and I mean nobody in mainstream media, is asking the obvious question underneath that one. Why did Iran need Trump to do exactly what he did? And I want to be very direct with you right now. I think the answer to that question changes everything about how you understand where this deal is actually going. So let's get into it. Here is the sequence of events, and I want you to hold all of it in your head at the same time, because the timing is everything. On the morning of June 21st, JD Vance arrived at Bürgenstock. The quadrilateral meeting begins: US, Iran, Qatar, Pakistan. The Iranian delegation is there. But watch this detail. Journalists on the ground reported that the Iranian delegation did not appear in photographs alongside Vance. They did not speak during the opening remarks. Al Jazeera's correspondent described the atmosphere as, and I'm quoting him here, showing how tense things are. Okay, so before Trump said a single word, something was already off. And then Trump went on Fox News. He said, and I want you to hear this carefully, that the United States could resume bombing Iran. He said America might take over the Strait of Hormuz if a deal is not reached. He said Iran should watch what they say. And then he posted on social media demanding that Iran immediately stop what he called its highly paid proxies in Lebanon, and threatened to hit Iran very hard again, only harder. He said all of this while Vance was literally sitting at the negotiating table. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson, Esmail Baghaei, came out and said it plainly. He said Trump's threats, and I'm quoting directly here, caused Iran to announce it was not willing to continue the quadrilateral meeting under such circumstances. Iran's chief negotiator, Ghalibaf, posted on X. He called the comments a sign of American desperation. He said Iran would not be intimidated, and then Iran reclosed the Strait of Hormuz. That is the sequence. Now here's the question nobody is asking. Did Iran see this coming? I want to introduce a concept today that I think is the key to understanding what just happened. I call it the controlled provocation. The controlled provocation is a specific diplomatic maneuver, and the logic goes like this. When you are the weaker party in a negotiation and you need to pause, delay, or reset the terms without looking like you are the one causing the breakdown, you create conditions where your counterpart provokes you. You don't start the fire, you hand your counterpart the matches, and you wait. Think about Iran's position going into Switzerland. They are sitting across from the United States under a 60-day MOU. The clock is running. Article 13 of that MOU says the hard stuff, nuclear talks, sanctions relief, frozen assets, none of it moves forward until Article 1 is satisfied. And Article 1 is a ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon. But Israel is still bombing Lebanon every day. The US cannot stop it. Iran has been saying this since day one. America cannot deliver Article 1, and yet America keeps pushing Iran to move toward Article 2, 3, 4, everything else. So what does Iran need? Iran needs a legitimate reason to pause, a reason that is publicly defensible, a reason that puts the blame on Washington without Iran technically violating the MOU. And on June 21st, at the exact moment Vance sat down at the table, Trump handed them exactly that reason. Think about the game theory here. Iran did not walk out over Lebanon. Iran did not walk out over Israel. Iran walked out because the President of the United States threatened them during the talks. That is a completely different narrative. That is not Iran being difficult. That is Iran responding to a provocation. And a country that responds to a provocation is not the party that broke the deal. The party that provoked them is. This is not paranoia. This is not conspiracy. This is the oldest move in diplomatic history. And Iran has been watching American behavior closely enough to know that Trump will always give them this gift. He has done it 39 times before during this war. He announced breakthroughs that didn't materialize over and over again. Why would June 21st be any different? Iran did not need to manufacture a crisis. They just needed to show up, keep the temperature cold, and wait for the Fox News interview. Now I want to bring in something that almost no one in mainstream media is connecting to this story, and this is the part where I'm asking you to look at a slightly bigger picture. Who actually benefited most from what happened in Bürgenstock yesterday? It was not Iran. Not directly. Iran got a pause, which it needed. But the real winners are Qatar and Pakistan. And I want to explain why this matters. Qatar and Pakistan are the mediators. They are the channel through which every communication between Washington and Tehran is now flowing. And here is the structural reality of mediation that most people completely miss. The more the direct relationship between the two parties breaks down, the more indispensable the mediators become. Every time Trump threatens Iran and Iran walks out of a direct meeting, they do not stop talking. They route the conversation through Doha and Islamabad. Qatar has now positioned itself as the irreplaceable communication line between two nuclear-era powers who cannot talk to each other directly without one of them making a threat on Fox News. That is extraordinary leverage. That is the kind of soft power that translates into investment deals, security agreements, and diplomatic capital for the next decade. And there is a third player in this room who is even quieter: China. China has said absolutely nothing about the Switzerland breakdown, not one statement. And in geopolitics, I've said this before and I'll keep saying it, the most important information is almost never in what powerful countries say loudly. It is in what they do quietly. China is still buying Iranian oil. China's yuan-based oil trade is still running. And every day that American diplomacy stumbles, every day that the dollar-based sanctions architecture looks unreliable and chaotic, China's alternative financial system looks more attractive to every country watching this play out. The chaos in Switzerland is not just a news story, it is an advertisement for de-dollarization. Now I want to do something I always do. I want to give you the strongest possible argument for the other side, because I think intellectual honesty demands it, and because I could be wrong about parts of this. The argument that Trump's Fox News interview was genuine, uncoordinated, and damaging goes like this. Trump has a pattern of undercutting his own negotiators. He did it during the first trade war with China. He did it during the JCPOA negotiations. He operates on instinct, not on choreographed signaling. The idea that Iran predicted Trump would go on Fox News and threaten them at the exact moment Vance sat down at the table gives Iran's strategic planning more credit than it deserves. Sometimes a chaotic president is just a chaotic president. And here's the thing, that argument is not crazy. It is entirely possible that Trump simply could not help himself, that the Fox News interview was impulse, not strategy, and that it genuinely damaged the talks in a way that serves nobody. But here is what that argument cannot explain. The Iranian delegation was already cold before Trump said a word. They were already not appearing in photographs. They were already signaling distance. And the moment Trump's comments were published, Iran did not take hours to deliberate. They suspended the quadrilateral meeting almost immediately. That speed suggests Iran had a threshold, a predetermined tripwire. Not that they were surprised. If you are genuinely surprised by a provocation, you need time to respond. If you have been waiting for one, you move instantly. Okay, let me give you 3 specific things to watch very closely over the next 72 hours, because this is how you test any framework in real time. First, watch whether the technical level talks continue, even though the quadrilateral meeting was suspended. Iran's foreign ministry already signaled that technical teams kept working after the walkout. If that continues, it tells you Iran is not trying to collapse the deal. They are trying to reset the terms of it. A suspension that keeps the technical channel open is not a crisis. It is a negotiating tactic wearing the costume of a crisis. Second, watch what Qatar and Pakistan say next, not what the US says, not what Iran says, the mediators. Their joint statement after the talks described the atmosphere as positive and constructive. That is diplomatic language for, we are still holding this together. If Qatar begins using stronger language, if the tone from Doha shifts from optimism to urgency, that is your signal that the mediation channel itself is under strain. That is the moment to worry. Third, and this is the most important one, watch whether Israel conducts any major strike in Lebanon in the next 48 hours. Because here is the structural reality. Iran did not walk out over Trump's words alone. Iran walked out because Trump's words came on top of Israeli strikes in Lebanon that are already violating Article 1 of the MOU. The Lebanese ceasefire is the precondition for everything else. If Israel hits Doha, if there is a major escalation in the south, Iran will not just suspend a meeting. Iran will use it as grounds to pause the entire MOU framework. And at that point, we are not talking about a diplomatic stumble. We are talking about the deal itself being under existential threat. So let me leave you with this. Every channel right now is running the story of Trump sabotaging his own VP's negotiation. And I understand why. It is a good story. It is immediate. It has drama. It has a villain. It has a victim. It gives you something to be outraged about. But the more important story is the one underneath it. A country with a fraction of America's military budget just paused a major international negotiation without firing a single shot, without technically violating a single clause of a signed agreement, and without giving the other side a clean political reason to blame them for the breakdown. And they did it by simply waiting for the American president to go on Fox News. That is not weakness. That is not desperation. That is a country that has been studying its counterpart for long enough to know exactly when to step back and let them trip over their own feet. Your homework, and I mean this seriously, go read Iran's foreign ministry statement from Esmail Baghaei on June 21st. Read the exact language he used. Notice what he says about the quadrilateral meeting being suspended and what he says about technical talks continuing. Those two things existing in the same statement at the same time tell you everything about what Iran is actually doing here. And then ask yourself this question. If Iran wanted the deal to collapse, why did the technical teams stay at the table? And if Iran wanted the deal to succeed, why did they suspend the meeting? The answer to those two questions is not a contradiction. It is the strategy. I'll see you in the next one.